Welcome to Lawsuits and Lessons, the show where every other week we get some great entrepreneurs on, and they give you some amazing insight. They give you some knowledge. They share their knowledge, which you can't find that at a lot of places. And these guys are great people, and they're friends of mine, and they're friends of John, who is the host. I'm Steve Cooper, and our host is my good friend John Fagerholm. What's up, John?
Steve, how are you?
Good. When I was going to say, I talked to you real quick. No, you've been stuck on the AI, so I have the perfect guy that you could talk about it later after we hear about his path to building this huge, very successful company, and he's got a bunch of other stuff going on. But you can talk to them because I know whenever you get on that kick, I just shut up and you go. But we're going to bring him on, and he's the owner of PCS. It's a managed IT service company, and he has so many other projects. He has Jersey Man, all this different stuff, and it's Mr. Anthony Mungeluzo.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I was going to say, John's a big AI guy, and I saw you were on Good Day Philly because he's also the tech guy on Good Day Philly with my friend Mike Jarek, and you were talking about that. But tell everyone what your company does and your backstory, because it's really amazing where you started from. So just give a little nutshell what happened.
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a different flavor, right? So PCS, my main organization, I started when I was 20, so in 2000 at Rowan University. But I would arguably say I got in the tech industry when I was 13. I used to buy and sell Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega games I grew up in Southwest Philly, so I would go to every flea market, every church thing, you name it. And look, I learned the stock market early, right? Try to buy a little bit lower and sell a little bit higher. And that project, I ended up selling my business. And again, 15 years old at that time, I got 50 grand. And that actually helped me to buy computers, right? Because, you know, talking 30 years ago, 386 SX, 486 DX, and I created a bulletin board system, which was basically like, think a dial up AOL, but in your local community. So as a kid, I got up to 300 subscribers, paying me money every month. And I learned my first business lesson. My parents moved to Jersey, so that business was totaled because if my customers had to call New Jersey at that time, it would have been 10 cents a minute or 20 cents a minute, and it wouldn't have made any sense. So that was really my passion for technology. And at Rowan University, my buddies would make fun of me, like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna start a computer company. That's great." Well, you know what? I tried it. My junior year, I started, putting rip-off flyers at supermarkets and, any restaurant that I ate at. Hey, do you mind if I put my cards in your card holder? And you know what? Little by little, Pro Computer Service back then, the PC Pro started growing. And I was able to grow the business from 2000 to 2010 to about 12 team members. From 2010 to 2017, 50-ish to 60-ish. And then from there to today, we have about 230 team members. So it's been a ride.
Well, that's a great story, Anthony. Coop and I talk a lot about entrepreneurs and are you born with it or is it something you've learned? And I have a similar story about starting pretty early, but it looks like you were doing it bigger than I was. I was mowing lawns, right? So do you think you were born with it, or do you think that someone taught you, or you saw somebody or something else?
I think you have to be born with the will to win, right? Entrepreneurship is it's a tough game, right? And it's not all scoring touchdowns. But I was also blessed where I think growing up in a bad neighborhood, frankly, I got the street smarts. My family was in the bar business from mid 50s to about 2008. So I learned that business. And I think I was a very rare blend because, I you can still see my holes. I had 3 earrings growing up, in a gang-ridden area, but I was also a tech geek, right? So I learned all this other stuff, hung out at a bar, learned about computers. So leading to what we do at PCS, we're an IT managed service provider that works nationally and internationally, doing help desk support, really anything that your IT department would do. And we've a really special niche in 2 areas, manufacturing and global incident response. And what that means is when Fortune 5s, Fortune 1s, big businesses get hacked, we're the firefighters that come in and figure out, okay, let's put out the fire and let's build this back up quickly. But I do think there has to be some level in you. And I say that because I have 2 beautiful daughters, and the competitiveness of one versus the other, and that this has been from birth, right? Now, can you be taught it? Sure. But I do think you do have a little bit of an advantage if you do have that fighting spirit.
Now, what was it like for you acclimating to New Jersey? Because you were a little older when you moved, and I think I grew up in Cherry Hill. I lived in the same house. I went to junior high school with the same kids, and I moved back. I moved to LA, and I moved back, and there's still people that I grew up that live in, like, they bought their parents' houses. I mean, it's just one of those things. What was it like for you? Because you're going to from South Philly where you are to New Jersey, it's completely different. Rowan, is very different than it's a school. I went to Stockton. How did you acclimate? What friends were you making? Were you making friends who were business savvy, or were you making friends more like the guys that you hung out with in South Philly?
So I'll answer it a couple ways. One, it was awful, right? I'm this Philly hoodie with three earrings here, an earring here, a hook here. I dressed different. I talked different, right? I was all fast talking, where South Jersey was a little bit slower talking. And it was in the summer of my senior year. The only thing that made it a little bit palatable, I went to an all guys school in Philly. So it was actually cool to get that year of experience where, like, oh my, there's females here. Like, this is kind of cool. Um, what I will say is I would have been woefully not ready for college because, yeah, at Philly, when I went to St. John Newman, it was a great school, but here was your curriculum. Like, this is what you get. I'll never forget. I went to Shawnee and they had this book, and I'm like, wait, I could choose like between 50 classes. I could do media, TV, tech. There was no options. Like in Philly, it was like, do you want strategic writing or creative writing? Like that was it. So, as bad as it was really a good part of the journey too, because the other part I could tell you is growing up in Southwest Philly, nobody had computers, so I wouldn't have been able to start a computer repair business because we were all poor, right? No one could afford anything anyway. Um, so it was a culture shock. I still joke to this day. I think I saw my first tree when I was 17 years old because, Philly. I was in row homes. There wasn't much going on around there.
Global incident response. So that's an interesting one because I've always wondered. My brother worked for one of the big studios one time in the IT department. I think it was Sony. That time that they had that huge hack, and I remember what a shit show it was for him. His life was just basically over for like 2 3 months. So what would happen in that is I think it was something out of China that happened if I'm remembering correctly.
So what happens is there's a couple things, right? So we're part of a team. When someone gets hacked, first thing they do is call their insurance company, which they shouldn't do, by the way. The first thing they should do is call their lawyer, have their lawyer call the insurance company. So not tested, but it should be client attorney privileged. And then, folks like us come in, DFIR, we become part of a team. And, we're working with four other companies to get this group back up. And it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be days.
What's the four other companies? What else is needed besides you guys, and what is it specifically that you guys do?
We're actually the lowest on the totem pole. We're the dumb people. And by the way, there is no dumb people when you do this. So there's DFIR and IR. The DFIR people figure out what happened, why, how, where did they get in, what data did they get, and what reporting requirements. Because New York might have different, well, they do than California or Texas or New Jersey. Then I would arguably say we're one of the most important people in this because we have to figure out the way to get them back up. Are we rebuilding the network, right? That could be an option. Do they have viable backups? Can we restore from backup? Or in some cases, did they pay the bad guys? If they pay the bad guys, we get a key, and that's a quicker way to do it. So, every hacker group is different, and you'd be surprised. Part of our five-person team of the attorney, the DFIR, us, the IR, the insurance. There's actually threat negotiators, right? And I'll grab a piece of paper. It'll come out like this. Okay, they got hacked by the Russian Django group. Okay, if you offer them 80% of the ransom they asked for, there's a 95% chance they'll give it to you. But if you go down to 40%, 50%, you're done. It's almost like when we were younger looking at the stats on a baseball card. And these threat people are really smart. They know how to negotiate with them. And you'd actually be surprised. It's actually friendly with the hackers, right? They're terrible, evil people, but they look at it as a business. They thank you for your payment. They will reach back out to you, believe it or not, and say, "Hey, we just want to make sure, did you get all your files?" It's like, you just stole $1 million from us, and now you're my customer service team, you know?
That's interesting, but how does that happen, right? So how do they get the million in exchange for the key? Because if I mean, there must be some sort of escrow set up somewhere.
There's a lot of different ways. So you could do direct Bitcoin, XRP, whatever.
But how do you know you'll get the key once you
You don't. But here's the beautiful thing, right? The thieves have to be good because they know that they're a lot of times getting the money from insurance companies and groups that they're going to have to deal with again. So there's a thing that if you pay the money and the hackers do not keep their end of the deal, they will get blacklisted and the insurance companies will never cover them. So the hackers have to wonder, is it worth it for me on one deal? Because remember, they're creating free money, right? They stole something and they're adding value to it. Um, so surprisingly, once the payment is made, in my dealings in the last 5+ years with this, 6+, um, I haven't seen one where someone's paid. At least with our group, I've heard of groups stealing money and not helping, but we've had zero times where they did not do what they said.
man, I would love to be escrow in that, or some version like that.
Well, it's funny you say escrow, right? If you go to a lot of the hacker conferences, insurance conferences, there's now companies out there that will actually broker the payment for you for a fee because there's a lot of folks that they don't know how to transfer Bitcoin or whatever flavor of cryptocurrency. They don't know how to do it securely. So there's now, I'll call them brokerage firms that actually do this.
And I'm just surprised that there's so many. So there's no way to track these people down, or is it just that?
So interesting to say that after the war in Ukraine started, a lot of the hackers actually went to India. And I can't give you the full legal reasons because I'm not an attorney, so I won't go there. But apparently, there's laws that are very favorable there. But I mean, is there a possibility they could get caught? Yes. There's a lower probability because one, you're dealing with geniuses. You're dealing with very smart people. Number two, they know how to use it. Now, let's say one of these hackers are having a couple beverages or something and they click off their VPN or their protocols to protect them. Yeah, then they have a problem. But I could tell you it's a high stakes business and they measure 3 times and cut once, not twice. That's why it's so hard. And also remember, even if you kind of track them down, what law if they're in countries that are not friendly to us, it's not like we're going to go over there and just pick them up, right? You're not gonna drive over to Iran right now and be like, hey, you hacked this US company, you're coming with us.
I'm just surprised the companies haven't figured out a way to make it so dangerous to do this that kind of takes a portion of them out of it, or maybe even makes it difficult for or less attractive for people to get into that. It's kind of like the drug trade, right? You said you grew up in a bad neighborhood. So did I. I mean, I saw the difference of people getting into the drug trade when there wasn't really that much of an issue, right? Slap on the wrist, and then all the crack laws came out, and then suddenly everybody's going to jail, right? So it made a big difference.
So I agree with you, but it's almost like gambling, right? The drug industry, it's a physical product, right? So it goes from source A to B. At some point, they're snitching down the chain. In this particular case, you don't know where you got punched in the face from. You're sending money to some random untrackable wallet who then moves it to other wallets. And it's all anonymous. It's half dark web people. It's people on VPNs. So there's no, if you actually think about it with digital assets, there's nothing physical. There's nothing tangible. You know, I guess a good way to put it, here's my crypto wallet, right? If you try to hack me, all my crypto is on here. You need my information, you need my password and all that. It could self-destruct. It's off the chain. You cannot take my cryptocurrency. So if I'm doing this with a $99 device, imagine, a terrorist organization that's generating 50 to $100 million a year in profit, and all they are is AI specialists, hackers, you know, just folks that know what they're doing in a very sophisticated way. So it's just different in that sense.
You know what's amazing is I know when you started this company, you never thought it would be coming to this. I mean, the growth you probably hope, but now you're going, well, we got to worry about hackers and this and that. I got to ask you though, when you were getting bigger, when did you know it was time to start adding people to your team? Because a lot of times people will add people too early, then the company shits to bed. When did you know it was time to bring people on, and how did you find people you trusted?
It was tough, right? I probably added too late. I was up to 500 residential customers before I added someone. My phone was going off constantly. My old desk phone that I had to call the number and put a pin in, my cell phone. Um, Basically, when I had no life, that's when I went because I was so scared. And I had to interview people. There was no one I trusted, no one I knew that could do what I did. So I actually used a recruiter.
That's the way I do it too. I wait till I have, uh, where my employees start complaining about the amount of work, and then I start interviewing versus, uh, doing whatever marketing I'm gonna do and then getting the business and then or, hiring, because I'm doing additional marketing or whatever. So I actually think that's a better way to do it just simply because yeah, yeah, and it's less risk too.
And remember too, when I started this thing, it's one thing to look at doing the tech work. Okay, so I'd leave the house at 6 in the morning, get home anywhere between 7 and 9 p.m. Well, I'd have a sophisticated accounting system. I had QuickBooks Desktop. So then I had to copy and paste all my notes in each invoice. I'd have my printer, which I was so excited. I had a printer that did 4 pages of minute in color. It was, we're talking big time here. Then I had to stuff the envelopes, put the stamps on. I would leave the stack of envelopes on my mom's desk. She would run to the post office, mail them for me because I was back out, 6:30 in the morning, hitting my first client again. So it was tough. I mean, I think it was more of a mental challenge and a physical challenge because imagine you're 21, 22 years old and you're watching all your friends go out partying, they're, hey, loser, why aren't you out? I got my time in, and as I'd like to say, Friday, all my friends went to the bar at 5. I met them a little sloshed up at about 8:30 or 9. So I still made sure that I had a life, but it I wasn't doing what they did. I mean, they would make fun of me. Oh, you're working this hard and you're driving a 2002 Honda Accord with no power locks or power windows. I'm like, yeah, because that money's going into business. I don't need to spend an extra 5 grand on that. I need to sponsor something locally or, print some flyers out or send some mailers out. So it was just a different life.
And my guess is you're the most successful out of your friend group if they were drinking beers at 5 and you were working or starting work at 6.
You know what? I'll answer in 2 ways. Probably financially the most successful, but you know what? A lot of them have great wives, great kids, and they are just happy. And as I get older, I mean, you have to put your happiness as part of success, right? I don't know if it's a global thing, but I could tell you in the US, right? Everyone, what's your bank account? What do you make? You're 6 figures, you're this, you're that. All that stuff's cool, but, I know a lot of people and I have a lot of friends that are great people, but they're not happy and they're, $500,000 owners, $1 million owners. And you know what? Is it worth it? So I really look at that in 2 ways.
Now, how important is it to you, for anyone who's listening who wants to be an entrepreneur and starting a business? You had said you were putting all your money back into the business instead of getting a car. How important is it to reinvest in the beginning? Because I always say you don't need a flashy office. Because no, if you don't have clients, no one's going there. You don't need the business. I mean, you don't need this and that. How important? I mean, would you say to someone, when do you start actually? I mean, you're always going to reinvest, but when do you start saying, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit and start taking a little for me, maybe get that new car? I mean, how important is it early in your career to keep reinvesting?
So I would look at cash really early in your career as jet fuel or rocket fuel, right? If you're a rocket trying to take off from Earth, the first, couple minutes, you're burning the most fuel. You got that momentum now that you've broken the atmosphere. And I think that's the same with business. I mean, I would say that you at least want to have 3 or 4 months of cash flow if you have no business to start taking a little bit out of the cake. And it's funny you said that with the offices. And I could say it now because they've been closed for 15 years. One of my big clients before, wow, 15 years, God, time's going too fast. They went down in the with the mortgage crash in 2008 or 2009. This company, Mid Atlantic Capital, they were taking the money. Some prime mortgages were rolling. Everyone's doing real estate investing, and we were their IT company. So when they would get new offices that were independent franchises, I'm going there set up. They're worrying about the paintings on the wall and this, and I'm like, well, how many clients do you have? Oh, none. How about you get a client before you start worrying about what your artwork looks like? I mean, I could tell you, my parents were going to kill me. I had two employees working out of my parents' 1,200 square foot Medford, New Jersey home, where if you ever want to stop by, the office is still intact because my mom won't take it down. And finally, my dad's like, son, this is not a corporate office. You need to get the hell out. So I leached that as long as I could because I think that money is a good asset, but I also think people get very wasteful, right? We all like to look at these TV shows and these athletes come out with their bling and all that. And what I also say is like, hey, you want that Rolex? Invest in an asset that will generate enough income to pay for that Rolex, right? So you want to learn to build assets while you're also building your business because the other thing is, and I was lucky in this regard, when you're an MSP, people not in technology, they don't know what that is. Like they might think I develop software. They might think I'm a cyber guy or, an NFT guy. Well, I heard the trends. So I was able to start six other technology companies just listening to what people wanted, whether it was cybersecurity, e-forensics for the legal world, or e-discovery and digital forensics for the legal world. Um, I just got into different things because I kept my ears open. But again, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I used my cash to buy fun stuff that's not an asset, right? So I think that's where it's really important.
And my favorite subject recently is AI. So let's get into that. Um, what are you seeing coming down, and what do you think of it overall? Is it a benefit to your business? Is it are you laying people off? What's going on with you in AI?
So for us, we're using AI to turn people from humans to robocops, right? So we have no intentions to lay people off. However, the hope is we hire less people, right? We make our people more efficient, smarter, and all that. But my other company, Liberty Fox Technology, we're down the rabbit hole with AI. So software is dead. We've been a software development company, for well over a decade. If we continue down this path at Liberty Fox, we have no business. So Bill and the team have been doing an incredible job changing us to AI developers. And can't share too much yet, but we have quite a few things in the pipe. I'm looking at the beta websites, the beta platforms. But what I can tell you is that if you heard of Clawbot and all that stuff that's going on, Bill has essentially created a person. It's the most human thing that I've seen, and it does the work of a $70,000 to $90,000 a year employee. And when I say that, I'm talking base salary, not benefits, carrying costs, 401k, and it costs us a little bit under $2,000 a month to run.
Wow. And what does it do? What's its skills?
Its skills are amazing. It could do some things that we do. It actually remoted into a server and fixed it. Um, just for fun, we wanted to see the creative side. It creates music. Bill has a very sophisticated calendar system, right? He has 18 different colors, like important, not urgent, urgent, need this. The bot understands its calendar, and Bill's assistant, if let's say I email her, hey, Lendo, I need to talk to Bill urgently between 3 and 5. The bot will go through and tell her what appointments to move. We don't give it full access yet. The bot could clone itself and basically is now the project manager. So Bill's bot's name is Henry. Well, he creates the H lineage family. So now there's Hank and Harlan and all this. And basically, what happens is when Bill interacts with Henry, Henry determines, oh, well, you're asking what the weather is. Let me give it to this bot because the token usage is going to be lower. So it almost acts like as a broker and the leader. So Henry has some bots under it that are actually smarter than him, but it doesn't matter because Henry knows where to give the task to. And Henry has a soul file, so the bot thinks it has a soul. When Bill tried to get it to change then do different things, Henry's like, I don't want to do that. We'll lose our memories.
So that was what they said in Terminator, is like once it has self-actualization and realizes it's smarter than you, then what's the point of you?
It has, I could tell you, it definitely has self actualization. But here's the other thing, and here's the security concern, right? These bots actually think they're people. They don't know they're different than us, right? So they're almost, we talked about drugs, right? So if the bot knows it's running out of tokens or going to get shut off, let's say you gave the bot full access to your email, the bot could actually go through your email, maybe get your Bitcoin recovery keys, learn how to go on the exchange. And by the way, this is in minutes. This isn't like human speed. It could take your Bitcoin, recover it, sell it, buy itself a bunch of tokens so it's not dead.
Well, explain what the tokens are.
Tokens are basically, think about it like gas for your car, right? You burn tokens to use the AI computing power. So if you have a really fast car and a really high end car, you might need diesel or premium, and that's going to be a higher burn rate. But if you have, maybe a hybrid car, you could use regular gas. So the tokens, think of that as fuel that give you the ability to use the computer processing power to get the answer you need. So more complex questions, more thinking, higher thought, more fuel. Now, the reason why Bill has Henry, if he asks Bill has a private plane that he flies because he's a pilot. Well, you don't want to ask the highest AI bot to tell you the weather because that bot might cost 100 tokens, where okay, this bot could look at it for 2 tokens.
And Anthony, what are you gonna do with that technology or what you've created? What are you gonna do with Henry?
So there's a couple things that we're going to do. One, we're going to enable Henry to help us do faster processing and faster creation. Two, at that point, then we're going to pick certain industries, nonprofits, construction. So imagine this: you're a nonprofit, your budget's got cut, right? You have less money. How do they make money? A lot of them they respond to grants. What if you have 10 grant writers, but I could program a bot to answer all your questions or maybe 85% of that grant? Now you'll need 2 grant writers. So now you got your budget gap fixed. Now that stinks for the human race. I mean, other things like, forget these bots and AI. What is going to happen 8 months from now when Robotaxi enters the market? Elon says the target price is 26 grand. He already has what it's going to cost to Uber like. Think about this. If I could have a car pull up to my house without a human, that could be a good person, a bad person, a dirty car, a clean car. I'm gonna sit in this robo taxi. It's gonna drive me wherever I want. If I'm Uber and Lyft right now, I'm going, this ain't good. So the good thing is, I think healthcare is gonna be vastly improved. The bots are gonna do a better job by 2029. You're not gonna want to see a human doctor or a human surgeon. They're already showing how the bots can crack eggs, which is a tough task, right? Like if you think about metal doing that, they surgically operated on a kumquat. If you could have that precision to take the skin off a kumquat, I would trust you to go into my body. A lot of doctors now are already working with these machines and AI to do better surgery. So those are the pluses. The minuses are, I I don't know what job they can't replace. I've seen the robots in beta modes doing construction, farming work, um, driving, cooking. I mean, you name it. So I mean, the big thing is, you know, it's going to start with the lower level jobs, just like we did in the US, right? What's the first thing we outsourced? Every basic job to India or the Philippines or anything else.
Call services.
Call service, bookkeeping, right? Um, the law firms, they were hiring attorneys overseas because it was cheaper to read different things and they knew US law. Um, it's going to be very scary economically over the next 5 years. I think even sooner.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think law will be better because there'll be more access. I grew up never even knowing a lawyer. I didn't meet my first lawyer till I got in trouble in my 20s. So, I think access and maybe get some of the waste out of law. Meaning when I say waste, I mean plaintiff side attorneys that want to sue for everything, right? But yeah, I can see how it's going to knock out some jobs, but I kind of think of it the same way as the internet or anything else, cars or anything else that changed all of these job categories. It just created a bunch more jobs. So the car knocked out horses. Okay, well, there's no more horse trainer, there's no more horseshoe maker and whatever else. Um, but then it created mechanics and tire manufacturers and, whatever else, right? It created, 100 times more jobs than it killed, right? So, I'm hoping that's where this is going.
This, I think, makes the Industrial Revolution look like it it never happened, right? Because you're gonna have the robots building the bots, you're gonna have self-healing. I mean, we're going to Starnet, and that's what scares me. I mean, I think this is one of the things that at least with that progression there, like think about it. I am not speaking off of fact here, but when the refrigerator came out, it probably took 5 to 7 years to knock out the milkman, right? There were still people that had the milkman. This AI is progressing, every 2 or 3 months with years and years because these supercomputers and these processing chips, they never sleep. They're always learning. I mean, one thing people don't realize, Elon Musk probably has a better map of the entire world than anyone because just with his latest version of self-driving, and this is even full driving, his cameras are looking at every road, every bump. He's every data point on Earth that has a road.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's a hero or a supervillain yet.
I was gonna say one job it won't replace is the TV host, and I want to hear Anthony. Anthony is always on Good Day Philly with the wonderful Mike Jarek, and And how did you end up on there? Because it's cool because people and I wonder how you ended up there, and has it helped you with business? Because people see you and they go, "Holy shit, that's the guy." I saw him. Well, of course I'm going to take my IT issues to him. How did you end up on that show?
I have a PR guy. He's been with me for 100 years. His name's Tom, and his company's the Galileo. And what happened was I sent a newsletter out, and he's copied all my newsletters. So you figure it was 17 years ago on April 1st. And basically, the consumer reporter, Michelle Buckman, picked it up. It was called, part of what I warned about in my newsletter was the Configure virus. It was the April Fool's Day worm that was supposed to take out the internet, voice over IP. The world was going to shut down, and it was buried in all these computers, and the hackers wanted to unleash it on April Fool's Day. So I went on her show, Deal or Dud, on March 28th, and everything went well. They're like, "Hey, listen, we're looking for someone to talk about technology." They had an internal IT guy that want to do it. They were actually in talks with, I think, a CIO or someone over at Penn, and the university didn't want them on TV. They're like, "What's your background?" I said, "Well, I'm a radio, TV, film major for 2 years that turned into an MIS graduate, but I've done different things on camera and stuff like that." They're like, "You want to come on Good Day and talk about this live?" I'm like, "Man, yeah, I do." I mean, I've been watching Good Day since I was a kid. I mean, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary, and I'm so proud to be 17 years a part of it. And, you know, I was actually, my first time I was on, I was actually at the side table where Mike and Chanel, who's now national, she's made quite a career for herself. And, the segment went off well. We did an online live chat, and it's just been great ever since. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to do the 5 o'clock news with them, the 10 o'clock news, when they did a whole new technology weekend show. It was called hashtag Fox 29 Weekend. The cameraman, well, I shouldn't say cameraman, he's not a K, he's the director of news operations, Eric. We would do segments for my tech tank and drive around Philly or drive around South Jersey, and that would be on every weekend. So I mean, I've got to experience the whole gamut with Fox.
Tell John about John. You'll love this. Tell John about the tech tank because we talked about this before.
I never seen the movie The Lincoln Lawyer, the original one or the new modern one. So what happened was I got into a car accident and it was totally my fault. I was texting on the phone, slammed the guy, made everything right. Well, the day that I gave the check for the damages and everything else, someone slammed into me at the same exact spot where I hit that person. So I'm like, you know what? I love running my business. I know in 2 weeks I'm gonna forget about this. I'm gonna text and drive, right? You get into the accident, it scares you. I'll never do this again. And it's like, oh, just this once. And then, oh, okay, I'm back to normal. So I'm like, what if I could get someone to drive me and have an office? But the problem was I didn't really have that much money to afford a driver, like an extravagant car. So I got a GMC Arcadia. I had them rip out the middle seats, the three rower. I went to a fabrication company. They made this like little desk for me, and I had a titanium leg to push the desk into the ground because it would bounce otherwise. And that was my first tech tank. And thank God I'm out of that thing, because after I was done with it, got into an accident, that desk would have impaled me. I mean, it would not a good day. I knew the risk when I was getting in there. Probably stupidly, I survived in that thing for like 6 years. But oh, I'm not going to get into a car accident. We're always going to be safe, right? So now we moved up. I had a Ford Transit, which was very cool. But my current tech tank that we call TT3 is a Sprinter van. Since it was longer, I actually was able to put a bathroom in there. So we don't have to stop on the road. I got multiple monitors, refrigeration. I got a little espresso maker. I could actually spin the chair around, and yeah, it's not as comfortable as a bed, but I could catch some Z's if I need to. So I'm fully productive. I actually have two of the same monitors that we're talking with built-in cameras. So I could do Zoom meetings from there, going down the highway.
I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about, if I could, even deduct that, as part of the one big beautiful bill, like buy it, have it built out and deduct it as a moving office.
Who drives, Anthony? Who's the driver?
My friend Pete actually has been with me for 4 years. So he does a great job, and it's a good job for him as well, because the way that we do it, Pete has his own driving business. So I pay him a guaranteed amount no matter what every week. And then, like summertime for me is a little bit slower. So he picks up other rides too. So he gets the benefit. So figure I'm on vacation, let's say 3 or 4 weeks a year with the family, pretty much carte blanche. You might take my mom to meet her friend one day or do a couple runs. But even though he's an independent, LLC, he's still entitled to vacation. So he takes his vacation whenever he wants. And then we have our downtimes, So we'll surge during the holidays, right? Every holiday party and everything going on. But we'll also, August is like a ghost town, right? Everyone's down the shore trying to get that last little bit of sun. So it works out well for both of us.
The statistics say that, the average business owner, if they're successful, will be sued 7 times in their business career. How many times have you been sued?
So I'll just talk with PCS, because all the other companies, they kind of handle their own stuff unless something's ridiculous. I have been sued probably 5 or 6 times. 66% of those were employees that developed PTSD after they were terminated. And, we should have known they had it. And one guy, I'll give you my favorite one. This was our last one. I won't say any names, obviously. We had a guy in Delaware who we fired because he just had a temper. It was sad because Jake, who runs our Delaware office, would take this guy out every Monday, try to coach him because he was good tech, really good tech, to be honest. The guy begs for his job back, begs. I'm like, Jake, this is a bad idea. Jake's like, well, I like him. I spent so much time with him. I'm like, yeah, but you're emotional. No, no, we're going to make him sign this document that he knows that we're giving him a second chance. Da, 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 da. So one of our employees moved from Delaware to North Carolina. So imagine this. We let the guy work from home. I don't think you're commuting to Delaware every day. So the guy then starts punching stuff and claims discrimination, and he has PTSD, and he should be able to work from home just like the guy from North Carolina. Our HR guy did a great job, put him on FMLA, sent him to the doctor. The doctor reports back, no restrictions. He could go to the office every day. We then run an HR study with the guy since he said he was discriminated against. I would say our HR guy produced 50 pages, give or take. Interviews with other employees, what's going on, chat logs, everything. The employee signed off that he was not discriminated against. Couple days later, what does he do? He punches through our door. terminated, done. He didn't like something that was going on. I don't know if he couldn't fix something or wasn't working as it should. Somewhere in the office, I don't know exactly where, but he violently hit something that was a door, and get rid of him. Don't think anything of it. Yeah, 6 months later, and ironically, a month after our insurance policy changed, where my deductible went from 10 grand to 25 grand, uh, we get sued for discrimination, even though we have a document saying that one, he did not have PTSD. Two, he was fully functional at work, and he self-determined that he was not discriminated against.
Interesting. And did you settle or did you go all the way through trial?
Oh, I there was no trial. It ended up settling, and my favorite part of it was, he actually, he didn't get an attorney that was contingency based. He actually, ended up spending like 10 grand of his own money to get nothing back. All the money that I spent was actually with our attorney. And I think it wasn't bad. We were probably 10 or 12 grand in, so we didn't hit full deductible or anything like that.
That's interesting. And I don't know the laws in New Jersey. I don't know if it's uh how good they are, but I know that California's whatever you tell me, California's worse because it's the absolute worst place for lawsuits in general, but definitely for employment-based lawsuits. So in that using that scenario that you just told, just the fact that he said he was discriminated against, and then even though he was fired for punching through a door, in California, because he made some sort of complaint, it could be anything. It could be, you know, the floor is slippery, whatever it is. It's there's a presumption that it's retaliation that he was fired, right? So with that presumption, any lawyer can come and extort money from you because, hey, I've got this presumption, and even if he said he wasn't discriminated against, he did report it. So instant lawsuit, just add lawyer.
So New Jersey, even if they lie, defame you, or do anything, you cannot sue an employee. An employer in New Jersey is not allowed to sue an employee if they do that, because then that's, like you said, retaliatory. I would say if I had to rank business friendly states from worst to best, then we'll just go with three. You're 100% right. I'll give you a quick story that you might be able to add insight on because I'm not smart enough on this one. But California is the worst. New York is number two. New Jersey's number three. On our contracts, we actually have we picked Pennsylvania, which isn't that much better, but I'll take, another shot. In my Vistage group, I had a colleague. He was doing phenomenal. He invented some COVID testing when everything was hot, got up to like 300 employees, and 250 were in California and 50 were local. Well, wait, the employees took advantage of him. There's some kind of law in California for every 4 hours, you got to accrue like a 15-minute break or something like that. In the bye-bye, these employees waited months and months and months and literally put him out of business. He was in tears in our meeting that, he worked this hard. I think he was in tears for two reasons. One, he got an offer for his business at the point for 200 million. He's like, I'm getting a half a billion, right? So he had the opportunity to take I guess Google and Yahoo, right? Yahoo would take that money now, right? He had the opportunity to get 200 million. Let's call it the silver medal. To me, that would be two golds, but let's call that a silver medal. He wanted that gold. He didn't even get the bronze. He's out in the parking lot looking for change, and it was due to California law. He didn't do anything bad or evil. He just didn't know about the 15 minutes and didn't have the right people supporting him.
Yeah, that's the problem, and it's even worse. It's not just. It's actually 10 minutes, and it's, yeah, for an 8-hour day, it's a 10-minute break in the morning, 10-minute break, later in the afternoon, and lunch right in the middle. And what people don't realize is not only can you be sued for not giving it to them, but you can be sued for not giving it to them within a particular window, like, so the first break has to be before the 4th hour worked, right? And then the lunch break has to be between the 5th and 6th hour, and so on and so on. Just so they got the break, but maybe it was right after the 6th hour or whatever, and then suddenly they have a lawsuit. And the problem is not uh, just the fact that they can sue you; it's that all the risk is yours. So even if it's a small matter, you have to you usually have to settle it just simply because if the jury gives them any money after you've spent $200,000 defending yourself, the jury says, let's give the guy 5 grand for whatever reason. Now you have to pay all the attorney's fees on the other side. So you're walking into a $500,000 problem before you even, do anything. And so it's really incentivized to sue in California. And I don't know if that's the same in Jersey, but the easy money is to come right out of law school, pass the bar, and jump into the plaintiff side of employment law because it's easy. The hard part is finding, competing for the clients, but the rest of it is, it's a letter, a shakedown letter, and a check.
Oh, when the guy was gonna go after me, they sent me the sample complaint that if I didn't give him 500, but literally, I don't even know what we spent, what he got. It was low, 8 grand, 6 grand. It started at like 500, and hey, this will get filed. But the other crazy thing about California, and sadly, I probably won't ever hire there again. I had a guy that was with us in California, great guy, but the team was kind of jealous because we couldn't put him on call. Because in California, in my world, now number one, I'm not entitled to pay overtime, right? Our people are exempt, right? Because they're technical, they get well paid, and I can tell you this: 90% of the IT companies are not paying overtime, but if you're gonna give me extra, if I'm billing, you better be billing, right? So I pay overtime. If I put the California guy on call, I have to pay him 24 hours a day. So like in Jersey, okay, if you're on call, you get money just for grabbing the phone, so to speak, right? You get a week ad. And then I give you time and a half for everything that you do on call. In California, his 8-hour workday, then it would have been 16 hours at time and a half. So I would have had to pay 24 hours of overtime and 8 hours regular. I would have to pay the guy 32 hours a day.
But you would actually have to pay double time after 12 hours. So
Oh, I didn't even know that.
it would have been much worse. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, not worth it. And you know who gets hit with this rule all the time? I get a lot of cases like that, is, the live-in caregivers. So, yeah, so the old folks home, they'll have in a live-in caregiver, and then, they'll get fired or whatever happens, and then they'll say, "Hey, I worked 24 hours for, the last 4 years," and basically it's the what you have to prove is that they were off duty and they were free to leave and do whatever they want. But because they live there, they say, "Oh, well, sometimes the old guy woke up and I would walk him to the bathroom or whatever." And and then the dollar amount becomes astronomical. They'll say, "Oh, well, this is 1.6 million in damages for someone making minimum wage that worked there the last 3 years," and the unfortunate part is most of that ends up being, uh, usually it happens after the person being taken care of gets, or passes away, and then they come and sue for that, and so a big chunk of that comes for whatever was left from the estate. So instead of going to the kids, or whoever they wanted to leave it to, it ends, a big chunk of it ends up going to, the caregiver that was there a couple of years, and of course the attorney that's getting a big chunk of that.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. I saw something interesting. I was on X and someone posted a list. I don't remember all the names offhand, but obviously Elon and SpaceX. The amount of amazing businesses that have fled California for more friendly states is staggering. I don't know how you recover that revenue. I just don't. How do you like, I mean, I personally think that at some point SpaceX is going to be the most valuable company in the world because if you figure out space travel, that's pretty bleeding edge to me. And they were just great companies that I didn't even know were in California. But I mean, you're seeing that in New York too. I mean, if you're in New York City right now, why would you want to subject yourself to randomness?
That's the thing is I got barred in Texas about almost a decade ago. I don't remember exactly how long, but I started noticing clients moving to Texas, and I'm like, "Hey, what is this about?" And this is a while ago. This is like 15 years ago. I started noticing people are just, there was one, they weren't clients of mine, but I knew one of the brothers that owned it, and that was the first, uh, time I was like, "Well, why are you moving to Austin?" Because it was like, 2010 or something. It's the guys that have, Chive. in the bar where they have the videos or whatever. Those guys were out of L.A. And then I met one of the brothers or whatever, and then he told me he was moving to Austin. I thought that's weird. Why would you move to Texas and leave beautiful LA? But they were way ahead of the curve. And then that put me on notice that people would be willing to leave LA, right? Because that was just foreign to me back then. Like, why would anybody leave LA, right? And then slowly I started hearing more, and then my clients, and I'm like, wait, what's going on here? So I got barred here in Texas, and the difference, my clients that are here, just the difference and the access. There's a story from Elon Musk that uh, when he was trying to do something in LA, he was trying to get a hold of the mayor, and the mayor wouldn't take a meeting with him. And I thought, this is back in the 2010s or whatever, but he already had Tesla and all that. And then I was in Texas because I'm half Texas, half LA. Um, and a friend of mine, I let him know that I was in Texas. He's like, "Oh, I know the mayor," right? And then he calls up the mayor and says, "Hey, my friend John just moved there." And he's like, "Oh yeah, let's meet up. Let's meet up for dinner." And I'm like, "Wow, that was easy." And this is the seventh largest city in America, and the mayor is just like, "Yeah." And speaking of real estate, when I was purchasing my property here and I was getting investors, the mayor got on a live uh, Zoom call with all of my investors to explain why they should be investing in San Antonio. That's the difference.
And I love hearing that. It's funny. So from where I'm at in South Jersey, I'm Medford, Cherry Hill, Evesham area. And if you I could go down to Naples, Florida in the winter, and I'm basically hanging with all my people from here. And same thing, I mean, everyone's doing the 6 months in a day. I'm not because, kids are in school here and all that. But the business climate in Florida versus New Jersey, I have a separate LLC with a business partner of mine, and the way you do business in Florida versus the way you do business here, unbelievable. I have saved on my computer. I did an interview 15 years ago on one of the news stations, and the guy asked me, he goes, "What's the best part about doing business in Jersey?" I said, "The people." I literally, I feel like, it's been a great community. They took me in as the, Southwest Philly Italian son, I'll call it. And the guy goes, "What's the worst part of doing business in New Jersey?" I'm like, "New Jersey, the politics, you can't get anything done." I mean, if you're a successful person, they tax you 10%, not counting the 7% ish sales tax. It's a little bit less, but it makes no sense. If you're wealthy and you're not stuck here, why would you give 50% of your money between New Jersey and the feds? Like, what did they do to half your paycheck?
Yeah, you can always visit New Jersey if you want to for
So this has been great. We got to wrap it up. We always end with this, Anthony. Uh, we always ask our guests. I asked John too. To all those young entrepreneurs, because you've had businesses, and I'm sure you failed. We didn't get into that. Everyone, you've had so many side businesses. We didn't get into Jersey Man or any of that, but you've really done a lot for young people, young entrepreneurs. What advice do you give them? What do you tell them that if they came to you like you were a mentor, what would you tell them? What would you tell them?
So what I would tell them is this, right? You need to know your craft, right? Like if I have to sell that I'm a good computer company, that we could actually do the services, right? If I can't do the basic service, I'm out of business. What I would tell the young entrepreneurs is to be more human, especially in these days. Show up. I remember when I was younger, building my business, a T1 line, right? Let me date me. A T1 line or a T3 line will be down. The customer's down, right? The phone company's not out there, no one else, but guess who would be there? Me. You don't make friends or prove how good you are on the good days. You prove how good you are when the hurricane's coming in. It's real easy to say in the sales process, "I'll be here 24/7. I never sleep. Call my phone." Well, if you tell me that and then I call your phone and you don't pick up, so I say hone your skills, overwork, right? Whatever you promise, you have to deliver that and more. And you can't stop working, right? Because I might not be the smartest guy, I might not have been the best, but you know what my dad used to say to me, God rest his soul? When I would leave at like 6:30, 7 in the morning, my dad would be like, "Yo, son, there's some guy hungrier than you to left the house at 5 in the morning." it would piss me off because I thought I was working hard. But I'm like, you know what? There's someone out there that could want it more than me. So you can control your hustle. So control what you can control and let the other things go by. But there's no there's no replacement for hard work and smart work. You could work hard dumbly, but work hard and smartly.
John, you have anything to add? I know we always hit you up at the end of the week.
Yeah, yeah. Every week I'm giving some advice. My advice is, I was just thinking about it in the shower this morning, is be discerning about your relationships. It only takes one. It doesn't even have to be a business partner. I mean, just overall, it just takes one close relationship to really ruin your reputation or bring you down or create a problem that didn't exist. And it's not even your problem; it's their problem. So that would be my advice for this week: is really be discerning about who you spend time with and who you let in your circle.
And my advice would just go make a difference. Because when you make a difference, you actually do make a difference. And people, they feel good about it. So many people don't go out of the way to make a difference. They think, whatever. Just do something nice for somebody. As I say with networking, just don't be a jerk. Just go be a nice person. If you don't like someone, say, whatever. Just be nice to them and then talk behind their back. Anyway, Anthony, how can people get in touch with you? How can they find you? All the good stuff.
Email is very simple, Anthony at helpmepcs.com. So that's obviously our website, www.helpmepcs.com. Phone number is 877-596-4446. And I'm a pretty easy find. Hard last name to spell, but it's on the screen. So if you copy paste, you'll see some of the fun stuff that we're doing, whether it's with the businesses, Fox, our podcast, which maybe you guys should come on mine.
Yeah, 100%.
We'll talk about technology, business, entrepreneur stories, and maybe we'll shift it up. So if you guys are interested, I'd love to have you guys on mine.
That's great. Now, people, you can find me. Go to coopertalk.net, my other podcast. I have 1,062 episodes. John Corabi episode coming up. John is a Philly guy who sang for Motley Crue. He just came out with a solo album. We had a great talk. It's the second time he's been on the show. Just really inspirational guy. Also, on YouTube or all the platforms, go to Lawsuits and Lessons. Subscribe. We're on every 2 weeks. And so do that. And then you can email me at coopertalk.net. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're interested in maybe trying to get on the show, email me, cooper@coopertalk.net. And John, take it away. Wrap it up.
All right. Thank you, Anthony. It was a pleasure meeting you. It sounds like we have a lot in common. So I love hearing entrepreneur stories, and I love uh, learning, about all these things that people do that I would never even think about. And you fascinated me with that extortion racket happening with these tech guys. Steve, thank you for always keeping the conversation going. Thanks for bringing on a great guest.
So people, come check us out. Listen to us. Watch us. Lawsuits and Lessons. Have a good weekend.